Good evening, my friends. Welcome to Satsang. This is okay, or I have to bring it near, or like that? Satsang, yeah.
Needs to be closer to the mouth, I think.
Okay. Like that, yeah? What's common to all beings, let it be human beings, plants, animals, rocks, is that which is always here, and yet untouched by the senses, the feelings, and the thinking power of the human being. So that is obvious the moment, and it can be sudden, it can be in a split second, the moment nobody wants to interfere, to make it out, or to feel it, or to experience it. And for a human being, whom we can call a seeker if he wants to realize or to know himself, it can be through anything unexpected, or it can be through the knowledge of what is the mind. So whatever you can catch through all your means, which is senses, emotions, and thoughts, will not be that. It's a kind of negative way. So it's interesting to see how long. Do you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Sorry. Okay, it's coming. It's interesting to see then how long one means I as a person, how long I remains when he doesn't attach himself to what his body and mind offers, which is a way to exist. The creation is made like that. The creation is playing on what is common to all, which is called often that, which doesn't mean anything. The creation is included by that, embraced by that, which appears and disappears. The creation, appears and disappears. So, if you have any question, any doubt in your path towards knowing yourself, or to know what's real, please ask. Satsang is really a space for it, where one frees himself from the heavy luggage of belonging to even a culture or a religion or a vision, or to be free from thinking of oneself as something, as this and that. So, it's your space, take benefit of it, and if not, you just lost 1 hour maybe in your life. It doesn't matter much. Or you are sure with the path you take, and happy you, lucky you. If not, whatever can be questioned, can be questioned. So you can confirm more what you follow, or in the contrary, it will shake you up. So, welcome. Or make me speak in asking me anything you would like to hear, rather than to read in a book again. Yeah, Sarah. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
And the question's about when the intellect is useful as a tool.
Yeah.
And when it's keeping you stuck.
Yeah, good.
So I notice moments where, let's say you're planning a trip and you're deciding what house to rent. Yeah. And you can take all the intellect can take all the data, and it can, use that data and make a decision that's smart. And you probably have history in your life where you've done that before and you can rely on it. But then there's other times I experience where that process just feels like spinning wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And that the thing to do is then to just sit and listen. And I'd love to hear your perspective on how to use the intellect and how not to get stuck in the mud with spinning wheels.
Yeah. You see, the intellect is a great tool, as you said, and it, as a tool, as it is in duality, it has its good effect and bad effects. It's dual. The nature of it is dual. So it is it's useful for this world, very useful. And yet, as the arrogance and the pride often grows up, especially if you get more successful in whatever you plan and want to accomplish, it will give you also misery in some way. So the thing is to know what you are doing. You see, okay, I am busy now with something of this creation, of the world, of my personal life. I use my intellect. That's one thing. But then you think that this is the only way to be. So once you find that there is some attraction, or intuitively you feel that may be interesting, to ask, who is the thinker? Who has those thoughts? Who is using the intellect? At least that will give you a moment, even if it is very short, of disengagement. And often, because of this moment of disengagement, so it means you are freed from a moment, from your intellect, And when it rises again, it may be more clear, or you just don't question anymore if what you do is right or wrong. So I mean to say that peace will not be found through the intellect. It's very useful to accomplish many things. But for peace, it will be rather when you bring the intellect back to its source, means to the subject of the object which is the intellect. I don't know if I replied to your question.
Perfect.
Okay. So. And you can see more and more also that in fact, even though when you decide something and it goes well, so it was the right thing to do, and you think, I'm a right doer, it's because it had to be that way. So, I mean, one doesn't control much. It doesn't mean that he has not to take decisions in life, but he has to know. It is in the relative realm, you know. So, I think it's very important for peace in oneself to know what's what one is doing, even though he may forget while doing it. But if he develops the love and he treasures that the peace is at the it's prior whatever rises, then the pride eventually disappears. The pride is the suffering. And gives moment of great enjoyment too, of course. Yeah.
Can you talk about change? Like if we talk about the mind, and then sometimes you think, gee, that's changed, or this is different, or, you know what I mean? Is that still, are we still in our mind with that? Is that still thoughts change?
Changes, but what do you say about what? About the life? Changes in life?
Yeah, well, how do
Or
I
what?
thought about my question very deeply when I was just, you know, going on from the thought about the intellect and the mind, and sometimes change feels like you might make a decision or something. Not that you make it, but I'm just thinking, is change still part of our intellect and still part of thought?
I think I didn't understand. Well, it's my English, which is... so you mean, change... Okay, I understood the word changes, but what about the changes in the intellect?
Is it still part of the intellect? Is it still a thought?
It's... Changes is the nature of the creation. Everything you can experience or feel or think will change. And that's why you see it can be striking at some moment of your life to see, oh my God, I was thinking that way before. I'm totally changed because now my vision is like this, or same with the experiences and the feelings. And yet, I'm the same. So what does it mean, I am the same? So when one has this experience, he cannot refer to his thoughts, nor to his feelings, nor to his body. What is it? So, but that's another direction. That question or that suddenly you are struck, doesn't bring you any object. So the mind doesn't go out. It may go in, but it's also a direction. It's rather to leave some space where there is no location, in fact. And there itself, you see, it's always there. But if you figure it out, it will enter into time. And then it will go on changing. Even that will look one day, oh, it's so blissful, it's bliss itself. Or another day, no, it's an unconditional love. Or, no, it's this and that. You see? The changes are different aspects of it. But it's not it. Yeah. Hi.
So, as you started, made me remind when I was in the school, quite young, I heard from philosopher, I don't remember the name of the philosopher, but I remember the sentence always, or what it's meant, that the senses play with us.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we forget it all the life. I knew it all the life, and through my path and spiritual search and seek, I know it, but we forget it.
What do we forget?
That this everything how you started, that
yes.
everything which is experienced
Okay.
through the senses is not
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
But yet we still attached to that. We still fall in the game of
Yeah, we
all
will
these-
probably always fall in the game till the last
the whole.
breath. But you see, who in fact sometimes forgets or sometimes remembers? It must be somebody. And you refer to what doesn't belong to somebody. It is that which is common to all living beings. So, as a person, surely one is aware of it, and because it's a person, even if there is an awareness of it, he will forget. There will be an unawareness of it, because it's an experience of a person. So there is nothing wrong with that, you cannot change that. But you can be suddenly realize that the real thing is not into time. So it is not belonging to a person. And it cannot, in reality, that cannot be veiled and doesn't need to be remembered. So the tension, if you can hear this, the tension or the efforts to try as a person to be all the time in the awareness of that, you can give it up. Now it doesn't mean that the love you have for it will not make you go back there, or go back is even not a right expression, but it doesn't mean that you will not like to simply be free from whatever you know or experience or think of yourself. And that is the precious moment. And that is always available. Hmm? Yeah. Hi. Atma. If yeah, like that.
You don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if it's a long-winded one, but I'll just trying to be political.
They will throw you some tomatoes if they are fed up.
It's a question about reality, actually. In here, in our school or Shastra, it's more of a Tantra Shastra, which is also a yogic non-duality philosophy,
Yeah.
but not like Advaita Vedanta. And
Yeah.
the idea of negating self is not really the practiced way.
I know, yeah.
So the practiced way is actually seeing universal self-consciousness in everything. That we have the God and everything in the body and in mind and in ideas, in everything, and the way of Tantra is Tanoti Trayati, so we expand through our liberation through consciousness, through growth, through expansion.
Yeah.
So from the small to big.
Yeah.
And the things that we think and the things that we feel or associate with, they're still, even if they don't belong to me, if it's not my body, still belongs to something.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way can be answered is that it also belongs to God or to the universal consciousness. It's part of it all.
Yeah, sure. There is because this creation is not possible to appear if there is not that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same ends, different means.
Yeah.
But for many people, practically, it's really paradoxical when they're offered to simply realize and disassociate with the body, because it's just so hard. It's easy when you are here.
But
because
you know,
we can touch the realized being.
But that's why there are many paths, you see. There is absolutely no imposition that one is the one, or there are many paths, and that you cannot choose. I mean, you, according to your demand, to your background, to whatever, you will be fitting in this or that.
Yes.
And this I cannot discuss about that. You see, if you are satisfied, if it fits your demand, oh, lucky you are, isn't it? Now, if there is some doubt coming and all, it's good to ask. You ask questions. I don't say you have a doubt, but you ask. And I am also free to say what for me was the only path, but it's not an imposition at all.
I feel that and appreciate that. And
Sure.
Mostly it's the question is, for me, and it's been really great to have you here last week and then hear the answers and then think about this.
Yeah.
But the question is the reason, as in we can agree that there's no reality in what we construct. It's not real.
Yeah.
And everything is one ultimately.
Yeah.
But the question for me, and it's nagging, is why then the reality manifested? Is there a reason why it had to happen? Why Shakti seduced Shiva?
Yeah, sure. You think I cannot, I am unable to reveal mysteries, but what I know is that if there is no Shakti, how will we know that there is Shiva? And if there is a Shiva, somehow he cannot remain alone because itself creates itself all the time. So in that way, that's an answer. but I didn't disclose the core of the mystery.
It's a scary truth to even try to understand.
It's like, you see, it's very paradoxal. You need a mind to have this thought of liberated from the mind, from the tyranny of the mind, not from the appearance or disappearance of the mind, but from the tyranny of the mind. You need a mind to go that way, to know that in reality you are not a mind. And at the same time, you see, the negation is a path. Because in fact, when you take that path till you cannot use it anymore, everything is, there is only no two, there is no two. Huh?
Yes.
So, there is this beautiful Murti. There is a special name you may know better than me. In Hardware, they were selling it on the floor with all the gods and all that. Half Shiva, half Shakti. This is beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, but of course one tries to understand the exact meaning of it. And breaks his head for quite a few years probably. Yeah.
Ganga, when we are working with,
When we are,
when we are working or experiencing extreme emotions
yeah,
such as overwhelm and grief,
we all know that, yeah.
I experience that I completely lose the ability to witness and watch. Do you have any advice for the intensity that can happen when emotions are really common?
Just know that it's the person in this creation, and according to her circumstances that she may not have chosen, but it's her life, it's your life. It happens this way, but in fact, have the wisdom to see that you cannot expect much from this samsara. And so you can keep quiet even a second, you see. Even a second is so powerful. So give that opportunity to yourself. To be a witness, you see, it's an attainment of some great practice, but in the end, it is heavy. It's an identification too much, because you cannot be a witness all the time. It's fake. It cannot be true, and it will never be like that. Even when you sleep, you are not a witness. So it means it is also an identification in this creation. You are not even that in reality. So you can just be, you can choose your identity, but don't think that this is real. Yeah. Hi.
Can you talk about detaching from pain in the physical body?
Detachment from pain and physical body. There are many tricks for that, but I forgot them. You see, if you had the luck to have some self-inquiry before you are totally overwhelmed by pain in the body, which anyway sometimes it's not there too, I guess. You have to hear, in fact I'm not the body, and it is very, extremely scandalous for the mind. But it may give you a moment of relief, because then you are not obsessed by your pain at that time. It brings you totally in a different direction, which is the source of the thought, I am the body. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you cannot do other things to just be a bit relieved. But the essential is always available. You have not to make effort for that. You have just to trust that it's maybe true. And that can take years or not. Depends on everybody. Yeah, hi.
Hi, namaste.
No.
Can I read my question?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. It's,
It's a long question.
well, yeah.
It's
desire-
okay. Yeah.
Yep. Desire for freedom, this is the question. Desire for freedom, enlightenment is this is a presumption, but it's a preconception of the mind.
Yeah.
And how to get rid of preconceptions. And then my answer, I don't know if this is right, I just wondered if you could say, no, that's rubbish.
Do you hear?
Oh, sorry. My question is, desire for freedom, enlightenment, in brackets, is a preconception of mind, and how to get rid of preconceptions. And I wondered if the answer was mind and time are the same, so past and future is the same as mind. In every thought, mind as well, there's an inference of an I entity. So whatever thought comes, I feel like the I is there somewhere.
Yeah, it belongs
The ego.
to somebody, sure. There is not floating thoughts without anybody. Huh?
Yeah. And if I follow the I back to the source, no thing, there's peace, contentment in the quietness. No answer. What is prior to the mind? Is that the solution to all the preconceptions of the mind? Is to constantly follow it back to the source?
Look, if you have gone there, you would know the answer yourself.
Yeah. Intellectually I do, but no. Yeah.
Why you are satisfied with intellectual understanding? Just go there.
Yeah.
You know, means whatever, you can do it now. Whatever rises, don't try to do something with it. It rises. But for once, don't have the curiosity to see what it is. Even if you say, oh no, I'm free, finally free, it's a thought. If you are curious with that thought, you will lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, the extension of it is like that. You see? So, if you really want to realize what is, for once, if you really want that, you can give that moment. don't be curious of the offerings of the mind. Just for a moment. Because after that you will know whatever rises, it's the mind. I've seen it's the mind, I'm not the mind.
Thank you.
So that self-authority is there when you realize that.
I have had that in meditation.
Yeah, but you know the problem is, maybe, I ask you now, it was in the context of meditation, so it had a cause.
Yes.
You prepared yourself, there is a certain way or certain location, you become a meditator, you know, and then that's why it goes also. Because you create a cause, you believe it's because of that I can attain this.
I see.
While what is common to all is already there, that you meditate or not. But now of course, as long as you don't see the urgency or the truth of what I say, it's always good to sit, to contemplate, to make self-inquiry, to just sit, not to be engaged all the time with the mind. If you are interested in that, you see, you have to make your life, you have to introduce in your daily life, in your life, moments which will attract you, like, as you said, okay, meditation, or you read text, or you come to satsang, or you by yourself, you give some time to nothing. It's important to include that in your life. But of course, when you are meditating, then you become a meditator. And then what you do is that. But still, that question of mind will not mean much if you didn't meditate a lot. Then it can strike you. Now it's like if you have not gone so much in your mind and you have been frustrated and you know it doesn't lead much anywhere, you cannot appreciate or be struck by telling don't think. You see, sometimes you have to go full in something, and when you hear the opposite, then it makes some effect. I would like to say, you said to run after liberation is a preconception of the mind. Of course, it's a thought. But you see, if you keep that thought till it disappears in its own, at least you don't get busy with other thoughts. In that way, that one has not to be given up till it itself disappears. By itself, not by some intellectual understanding about the mind. By itself. Yes.
Thank you. Because my thoughts can disappear if I'm involved in something like music.
Yeah.
I'm playing music,
Yeah.
thoughts disappear.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm so focused,
What?
so concentrated
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
music.
sure.
But then, day-to-day life, mind is, as you
But
said,
that
curious.
that will be day-to-day life.
Yeah. I like what you said about give up, permanent.
I don't want to make it to banalize. I just say that because we have a concept that we will be enlightened beings on two legs walking on this planet. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Some people are more aware than others. This is a question of a personal maturity of the mind. You see, the mind has so many levels of consciousness. But still it's in the mind. Still it is somebody. So I really speak of the real nature of I cannot speak about that, but who are you when you don't use your mind?
Nothing.
That is an answer. Not even that.
No.
Yeah, because if you say nothing, who says so? Who knows so?
Yes.
That's why one loses it.
Because it's the mind that thinks it has.
Nothing will become something after some time. Then what?
But if that reference of the I is not there, then there is no something. I mean,
Don't think.
yeah, too much thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
If I just may offer about the suffering and the pain,
Yeah.
and even the preconception, and it feels like if I had to face that question, I would approach it by zooming in, rather
By?
than like zooming in and
Deepen.
trying to deepen into
Yeah,
that question
I know.
and accepting that this question or the
I know.
Intention.
It's one way, but my way raises it. You see, how long will you deepen? We did deepen all the time.
yes.
That's what we do all the time. It's exhausting.
Yes, and
It's beautiful. It's exhausting. And in the end, you remain always with this question, but who am I in fact?
look, I'm trying to be politically correct because it feels
I am not. Yeah.
I feel very much like the conservative of the non-duality that's building on tradition and trying to build upon what's been said and what's been done and the practice. And you sound a lot like a progressive, say that you just break it all and realize.
You know, of course that to be able to erase all that, probably, most probably, and myself included, you have done a lot. You have done a lot for it. You believed in it and you trust the path you took and all that. No doubt about it. But after all this, maybe if you have not finished your path, you cannot say. But if at some point you say, okay, I can still be so fucking overwhelmed by this stupid thing after all what I did, and what's going on, it can happen.
Oh, it can. Yes, that's why you always transform. You invite Shiva in your being, and you keep changing. I've never become the meditator. You're always ahead. You become something, and then you make the next step.
Yeah. So again, okay, there is a good hope that you will attain something, which looks true and all that. I don't deny, but at the same time, you cannot avoid that there is a deep feeling of, it can be expressed in many ways, of separation, or of, it's not yet that, or it's frustrated, unsatisfied in reality. So, and it's true, it's a blessed moment, because then, all what you did, it was not for nothing. It was to bring you here to be able to finally free you even from all what you did.
Yes. You're just way beyond what I'm saying. You're giving the answer. I'm only just wondering about how do you climb to the next step. And you're.
But there is no Himalayas here. There is no Mount Kailash here.
There's no one on Kailash. Did you say?
There is no Mount Kailash here to climb and to meet Shiva. You are it. It's because we are in the system of belief, so we don't believe I'm already that, or look, I do still this, and I am so imperfect, or whatever, or so perfect, but whatever. It's because we are in the system of belief.
Yes.
Otherwise, you see, if you really have done enough, you can say, yeah, maybe there is some wisdom here.
Absolutely. Well, at the highest level of abstraction, A is equals B and B equals A. It's just then when we put the language into it, and when you say I am that, and I'm trying to say that I am, they feel like different.
No, but it should be better not to say anything like Dakshinamurti,
Yes.
But then who are we? We transform that silence into some teaching again. So sometimes it's also good to be really silent as it is, but to express in words there is nothing wrong too. It's just to remove beliefs, those words, you see. It's nothing, no other purpose.
Leon,
Yeah, sure.
I was intrigued by a statement you made last week that we don't choose our Dharma.
We don't use?
Choose our Dharma.
Ah, yeah, choose our Dharma, yeah. It looks like.
Yes, and that got me wondering about how much control and choice we really have. Because we have no control or choice in the mind either. The mind seems like a karmic package that we've inherited. that doesn't really serve our better interests at all. It seems oblivious to.
But it serves because now you put into question that package. It's through your mind.
I'm wondering if we drastically overestimate how much control and how much choice we really have.
You know, we will always think that we can decide things. As a person, it will always be, or you have seen, you have an intuition, or a real fact that nothing is into your hands. And it doesn't mean that in the life you will not decide things and all, but you know that nothing is in your hands.
So it's very curious, the intensity of the struggle to survive. And we can see this even in animals when a prey is being caught by its predator and its struggle to survive, they cling to life. It's so strong.
Yeah.
And that's our lived experience every day. And I can only speak for myself, though it seems universal. There's always this anxiety, how are the dice going to fall? Will I generate what I need to meet the next challenge, whatever that is? All this kind of thing, which is going on. And
It will be endless. You see the challenges of this creation where we are born and where we will die. It is endless. That's why at some point one is really questions, but then what's the meaning? I want to be really happy or just at peace. What's the meaning to always face and believe I have to go through and go beyond, and then I try to do the best and still I am not successful, or still I am this bloody one? You see, it comes to the mind at some point. And then you hear, oh my dear child, that solution will not be in this creation. This creation is dual. Good, bad, birth, death, changes. So, know yourself. And that then, if it fits or if it starts to be clear that that's maybe what I have to hear after all, I tried enough other things, and I'm hopeless now, I'm helpless, so before I do whatever strange act in this life, I may listen to the voice of the wise. They say so, yes, it's samsara. Samsara is played upon you. Samsara appears because you are that, the source of it, prior to the awareness of it even. That is common to all. And you are not there to make it reveal itself. Don't be there. But for that, you have to start to know, but then, what is the mind? Whatever rises is the mind. Let it be physical, emotional, conceptual. So it's an expression of that, of what you really are, and there is no you there, there is no I. But you see, this is also, we cannot help but to hear you have no control about your life and all that. You cannot imagine that before realizing what it is. Because it will not be true. As a person, you really think you are a doer. even though with the practices sometimes you see that you are not. But it will be sometimes. So realize what is, and maybe all those questions, they just will be meaningless because things are perfectly as they appear and disappear. Huh? What do you think? The trouble is that we make concepts out of what will be a liberated man, how he will live this life after, and all this, and what it would be. And then one thinks he has to fit his concept. No, it's free. That was conceived by the mind. It's fake. It's not true. Now, everybody, if one doesn't die just now, has a life, as I said, and everybody has the life that is given to him, to her. Some will be public, some unknown, some looking like ordinary, some looking like extraordinary. It doesn't matter. There is no degrees here. It's just like that, isn't it? And it will be beautifully done. The world also needs yeah.
So I have a question about the truth or illusion of a pleasure deficit.
Oh my God.
So some people,
No, okay, tell me a bit more.
so some people believe you can have a pleasure deficit, as in you
Deficit.
have
A pleasure
like
deficit.
a lack of, you're
Yeah.
out of balance with pleasure in your life, with joy, with fun. And another view would be that anything that is tempting the sensations is actually a distraction from finding peace within, which is the true pleasure. And so I know this in myself. When I'm just totally at home in stillness, I don't need anything. I'm perfect.
Mm.
But often after a day of even a lot of presence, but just like
Mm-hmm.
it's full. It's a full-on day. It's like I notice that feeling of wanting some fun or some pleasure or something that's just like,
Yeah, sure.
and I wonder if that's to be overcome or if that is just part of life.
Part of life, yes, part of life. You know what was a luck to have lived with my master. I had a master, some people don't have, but I followed that path. Living with him, I removed the questions of enjoyments, detachments and all that, because probably as he was the embodiment of what I wanted to realize, whatever circumstances was there was unquestioned. And there were moments of total fun, total joy, total boredom, total, oh, again cooking, but it doesn't matter, you know? So, all those questions, I mean to say, all those questions come in the mind when you do self-inquiry, when you want to meditate to attain something. In that way, you cannot do it all the time also. You will not be able, even when the sleep state is there, where you sleep. So it means it is in the duality, it will not be there all the time. So it's totally normal that after a concentrated practice, not to be distracted, that after you want to be distracted. It's totally natural as a person. But what is interesting is maybe because you meditate, you have that best enjoyment, as you say, you start to see that it's maybe less important according to circumstances you will respond, but it's maybe you will less search real happiness from outside. That may be the result of your meditation. But you will still enjoy the circumstances or not. Hmm?
Yeah.
Hmm. But you see, this to know oneself is like you can't help but you are obsessed by solving that quest. So it's like when you are in love, even if you are married, where is your heart? While cooking, while being with your husband, you are all the time thinking of your beloved. It's a bit like this, the life of the seekers who want to realize what the wise express. So, you can't help. It's too late. Till you're at peace. Yeah, yeah, sure.
The question about connection and love.
Yeah.
And, when you speak of creation being not real, and if we can imagine it as a hologram.
It's real for the body, huh? It's real for the body. It looks real for the body and mind. Huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
just as a metaphor, if it's, say, it's like a hologram. And if I'm just looking at one by myself, I can really be confused about what it is. I may think, well, that's a line, but I cannot touch it because it's a hologram. But if there's another person who also looks at it and says, it's a line, I'm not teaching that person. We just make that assumption together through shared karmas, because we lived through generations, and really somehow we are charged to only be programmed to procreate and then continue life. So together we come to that point. It all brings us to the point that we think, well, that's a line, even though it's not real, but it exists.
Yeah, it
And
exists.
we share it, that understanding. And just like you said that you do have a teacher, and with that teacher and with that consort, you have your chance of getting that much closer to that liberation is increased, right? Especially if the teacher is also.
I was not closer. I lived experiences like any concentrated seeker who came to him was living. I was not more. There is, you see, there is no progress. There is a progress for oneself because he thinks, yes, I'm getting more, I understand better, I experience more bliss, so I am more expanded and all that. But that is still a reading of a personal metamorphosis, but that's nothing to do with liberation. Liberation is sudden, can come with a teacher or not. Generally it does, with a pointing at least, a finger. But it's sudden. There is no time there. It's done or not.
And do you have a sense of responsibility then, of some kind, or desire to also show that to somebody else?
I know that a sense of responsibility, I will not speak like this. I just know that if a seeker of this search asks me something, it's out of I am very passionate, happy to point out if I see that he binds himself to something. That's all. But the demand has to be there because you see, what to say, I mean, the pointing comes only with the demand. Nobody can speak about that. We can speak about what it is not. You know?
Sometimes it's really hard because some things are not, because they're not really in the mind and they come from somewhere deeper within, and it feels like whatever they are, and they're not, that there's nothing that they're not. As in, say, this very strong sense of love, let's say, when we meet the person that just feels right, and that person feels to be meaningful and real, and that whatever path you co-create is dependent on both of you, and somehow that person is also you. And you're not just that, but you're also some other person.
But you know, I don't understand much because I went to such a sober line that I don't know much what you speak about. But you know. I know that I had to really see that whatever I experience, there is an experiencer. And it goes very far because it's uncompromising. So in that way, and that it's not a way of life. Huh? Here I am very clear. It's not a way of life, it's just that you dedicate some time to that, to be free from the subject. You imagine? To be free to believe you're a subject. You imagine? The whole world believes that the subject is real.
Could you stay confused and stuck for a very long time trying to work your way through the mind? Because it's always changing and grasping and
Yeah.
Just my own experience is to drop the mind.
Is too corrupt?
Drop or
Ah, drop.
give up
Yeah.
the strength or the power of the mind and just let it go
Yeah.
as an experience.
Okay, great. Now, next step. Who is dropping it?
With the experience of what's behind that, or it's almost like there's a,
Yeah, but if there is a behind, there is
or a beyond.
who is speaking of prior, beyond, be back, front, deep. It's all conceived by the mind. It's okay, but you have to know they are conceptions of the mind, and if you believe in one of those qualities, you go for it. But then you create someone who will attain that. And that someone is exactly the core of misery. To believe I am someone.
I don't think I actually get things through the mind so much as drop into a sense of emptiness and
Sense of emptiness, great, but it will go.
yes.
And then what you do is that. If you believe that emptiness is true, and then it goes, you will say, I lost it, and you want to go back to what is true.
Well,
And you will be in a mess.
I do actually then. Of course, the mind that comes back in, and but it.
Okay, but listen, I don't want to convince you. If you have your own way, I'm happy for you.
It's more that any understanding I have comes out of nothing and unexpectedly rather than trying to dissect.
But I don't need your understanding. I'm happy you have it.
Okay.
Only if you ask me my understanding, I feel maybe not the right one, then I may tell you something. Otherwise, I don't want to interfere.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. Good.
It just seems like there's absolutely no point. It just seems like there's just no point in trying to get anywhere, or it's just there's no point.
You're right.
Like, why am I even here?
To hear that there is no point, that you're right. So where you go when you hear that?
It makes me laugh.
Ah, good. Ah, great. Have you a mind when you laugh?
Pardon?
Have you a mind when you laugh?
No.
No.
I mean, of course I do, but
Huh? No, you have no mind. You cannot laugh if you have a mind. It doesn't mean you have to laugh all the time, but
it's more fun.
yeah. Yeah. No, just laugh freely. No question of fun or no fun.
So I'm not really sure if this question or this topic is allowed here. It's the first time I come here.
It's all allowed, you know.
But I was thinking the teacher Randas, who left his body
Yeah,
recently.
I met him, I know him.
Yeah. So he was saying, in order to keep this state of constant true realization, he was exploring so much in psychedelics because he thought there he can stay.
Sure.
Finally, he found his teacher and he realizes this person is always in that state and I want to reach them. So, what do you think about it?
I think that you can reach there when there is no state. Those beings are not established in a state. They are free to believe that any state is real.
And the use of psychedelics for us to think.
To expand
as a
the
way.
mind, it can, for some, not for everybody, but for some it expands the mind. It was a way to open the mind, as many others can do with other things, even without substances. But there are ways, you see, there are experience. Then, of course, some became seekers after something else than what the material world offers. Yeah, sure. But it's not the end, because you see, if you depend on a cause, it cannot be real. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Could you just tell us a little bit more?
Could you what?
Could you tell us a little bit more about your experience of clarity, let's say?
Of clarity.
Or about the moment when the words of your master became a direct experience for you? And how did you integrate the physical reality into it?
Yes, listen. I have to enter into a story, and my story is not more exemplary than any other story. So I just can say that today I don't search, and there was no question of integration. Still there is not. I live in a totally normal way like any ordinary human being, so I'm not among the extraordinary ones. But it doesn't shake an inch off. It doesn't mean anything. It's a treasurable. I forgot what I wanted to say, but it's treasurable, that's sure. Relief, that was it. No, if you like to know something, I know that when I was still not, let's say, cooked, I took a few sentences of my master, which for me were, I knew they were amazing, and they accompanied me in the journey. It's better to munch 1, 2, or 3. One is enough, probably, than to try to take the whole thing. And one of them I can tell you, it's don't land anywhere.
land at the feet of your master. And
To land at the feet of the master is no landing. Before that, it's trying to bow down.
Practical question of taking something away from what we understand or realize or comprehend here. Would you say that it's good and proper or beneficial for us to share it in turn to someone else?
We share generally too early. Then there is some garbage with the beauty.
The best way we can say to the child.
But the best is
Let's say if I want to teach my son.
be it. And of course, you can always say that that exists, but don't make it a unbearable teaching and or religion.
And if he asks, just like everyone else here,
Yeah, sure.
if he asks,
But you reply. And if you don't know, you send him where he can get a good answer.
To build on a couple of questions here, teaching garbage, because you're not quite ready to share, and then the question around psychedelics, what I experience in America, and especially the West Coast, where I've been spending time, is there's a lot of people claiming to be spiritual teachers that, from my view, still have a lot of their journey to go. And there's a lot of people doing psychedelics that, in my view, would be quite ready for that level of intensity. And of course, what do I know, really? But I'd be curious to hear what your advice would be to both, particularly younger people, getting involved with psychedelics as a way of accessing the divine.
I will not say anything about that, you see. Everybody will find his ways. Sometimes it's through those things, sometimes not. What I would rather suggest is, what do you really want? When you are young, of course, you want to explore everything. But at some point, if you have not done it, then try to explore everything and then you will see. And if you have done it at some point, what do you really want? What is your demand before you die? If you die tomorrow, for example, what you would have wished to accomplish at least one thing? What is it? What is your priority? That's very important. Because when you are clear about that, it can take some time, but once you are clear about that, you have automatically the help for that. Anything more? Thank you very much. Very much. You know, since I am in your country, I feel very much about our sisters, the forest, the plants, the river, which dries the animals, the humans. And so, since as a human being I have a form and a name, I can pray to Lord Ganesha, who has a form and a name in the realm of gods, that his beloved trunks pours rains where it's needed. Oh.